If memory serves me right, the Orbit 65 by Machina was one of the most beautiful keyboards I have built in 2023. The swoopy profile, the beautiful combination of like the red anodization and the black PVD. How the weight was placed within, everything about this keyboard was just premium and polished, no pun intended. Now, the Australian Rabbit is back, again with this newest creation, the Cloudnine by Machina. The smaller yet more muscle-bound little brother to the Orbit 65. But how does it fare against their pretty boy Big Bro? Well, that's what we're gonna find out today. Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is Scott K. So the Cloudnine, it's interesting. It was originally designed to be just a true HHKB happy hacking keyboard design. What does that even mean, right? Well, many different things, but importantly, it has a smaller 6U spacebar, so that makes it unique. Now, knowing that I'm not sophisticated enough to use a true HHKB layout, and also because there are other barbarians out there like me, the Australian Rabbit also decided to bring out a more standard WinKey or WinKeyless 60% layout as well. It's dubbed the V2. As you can see right here, mine is the V2 prototype number 2. And I'm pretty sure this is the first time you're gonna see this thing in video. So given the success of the original Orbit 65, can this new Cloudnine carry the torch? Let's get started. So if you recall from the Orbit 65, that keyboard used these tiny little silicone tadpoles to mount the plate to the case. While the Orbit had 3 options before, the Cloudnine actually comes with 4. Softest one being the white ones and the hardest one being the black ones, and the 2 other ones are in between. So you could like custom dial in the feel of the keyboard by using these different ones. And yes, Frog TKL also has this type of mounting too. The Cloudnine also shares a similar goal, right, as the Orbit 65 in the past, in that this board will not rely on something like P foam and stuff like that, or tape mods to make sound good. So even for a keyboard from 2024, the Cloudnine doesn't have that much foam. In fact, it only comes with 2, the plate foam and the case foam. There's no other fillers or P foam or PET sheets or anything like that. Plus, you don't really have to use any of this if you don't really want to either. Going on to the PCB, the Cloudnine has a fairly standard PCB design, but finished nicely in this like blue-gray gloss. It looks very fancy. What's interesting is that it comes with like no RGB, no flex cuts, and in the standard 1.6mm thickness, honoring classic PCB designs. On top of that, I was sent the set of solderable PCB only, so truly OG here. Since the keyboard is from Australia, it does support both ANSI and ISO as well. As with most PCBs these days, it will be programmable with QMK or via whatever your choice is. As far as plates are concerned, I received like all of them. Seriously. Starting from like the stiffest one, right? So we have like the classic aluminum plate, then you have the FR4 plate, the PC plate, the palm plate, and finally, the polypropylene plate. This one is the most interesting here since it's the softest and it will also yield the deepest kind of sound. Once again, the Cloudnine keeps things pretty classic with like no flex cuts on any of these plates as well. As you can take a closer look, you can see the little tabs where like the tadpole gaskets will fit right in. Now that I got that portion out of the way, let me get to the most exciting part of the keyboard, the case. And yes, it's a glorious case. Yes, you can opt for all brass bottom or all copper bottom, or you could even go with the extra special one and get that crazy intricate machined stainless steel. The version I have is a solid brass bottom with the copper weight inserts. Let me tell you this, man, this case, it's heavy. Even just the bottom of the case, not counting anything else, it weighs around 4.5 pounds. Just that bottom. Remember what I said about the muscular little brother? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about because this thing weighs more than the Orbit 65. From the top, you can see the nice little details the Cloudnine also features. For example, you got this nice little engraving telling you the version and the origins of this keyboard, right? I have the prototype V2 number 2 from Sony. The copper weight inserts also help to break up like the monotony of the brass bottom, plus it's a nice little visual accent that works really well. The daughter board fits like right into this little slot. It also has its own cover. Honestly, this case, it's just beautiful. Not just the finish, but also the shape. If you look at the side profile of this case, you can see like the slight curvature swoop that's happening. It provides a nice little visual distinction, as well as helping to keep that case height a little bit less aggressive in the front, so potentially you can use this without a wrist rest. As you take a look at the back, you could also see a little sliver of brass or copper or stainless steel, depending on what you choose, that's gonna peek through. Just a really nice visual break. Unlike the Orbit 65 from the past, the new Cloudnine has been rounded. So the case itself is definitely more curvy than before and has a very nice soft look to it versus like the sharper edges of the Orbit 65. Alright, since this keyboard came with solderable PCB only, I couldn't really show off all the plates. So for this, I decided to go with the more unique polypropylene plate. Since the plate was so soft, I also decided to use the plate foam to help support the plate when like switches are being inserted, right? I think by now you guys know how I feel about soft plates and just flopping around. Speaking of switches, I decided to go with a set of Loop Banana Milk switches by Danekeeps and made by Texi. These switches are made of PME plastic material with a long stem pole, which yields a deeper sound profile. As shown before, the tab holes literally just snap right into these little tabs like this, and the whole thing then just kind of sits into the case like this as well. I decided to use the blue tadpoles for this one, which is the second most soft, and for me, it was like the Goldilocks zone, right? It just felt just the right amount of softness for me. Here's the completed look before the keycaps go on. It just looks really nice. And now the keycaps. For this build, I decided to go with a set of DCX Sleeper Keycaps with some accents as well. Honestly, with this bright silver case color, these keycaps do an amazing job of matching with the case, so I think it was a perfect combination. Just after building it all out, the Cloud looks very similar to the Orbit 65, but also distinctively different as well. So with this combination, how is the flex of the Cloudnine? Well, the Cloudnine is not the bounciest keyboard there is, but definitely has a nice give, and even without any flex cuts or any with the standard 1.6mm thickness PCB, it's still pretty soft. How about the sound? Well, let's check it out. Okay, while the overall design and the sound philosophy is similar between the Cloudnine and the Orbit 65, they do sound a bit different. I think I prefer the larger sound of the Orbit 65, but honestly at this point it'll be straight preferential. The sound of the Cloudnine is clean and not foamy at all. Well, it doesn't have much foam inside anyways. The polypropylene plate helps to keep that overall sound deeper and lower as expected, but I feel like the extremely heavy brass bottom, it takes away from like the liveliness of the keyboard a bit. Alright, so what are my final thoughts then? In my opinion, the major selling point of the Cloudnine is actually its visuals. It's a gorgeous keyboard. I'll be proud to have this on my desk. On top of that, the fit, feel, and the finish of this keyboard is immaculate, and the entire keyboard just exudes quality. You know it's an expensive keyboard. I mean, it's definitely not a cheap keyboard. The solid brass version starts at $399, the solid copper version at $439, and finally the machined stainless steel version, $529. I mean, that stainless version is akin to like keyboard art, so I understand a lot of machining required. Given that the Cloudnine will come in a true HHKB layout, I believe the majority will draw that crowd, right? Into that ultra premium HHKB keyboard with the looks to match. For the rest of us, the WinKey Winkeyless 60% will be a great addition to your collection if you're looking for top-notch design and manufacturing in a compact size. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and I'll have more content for you in the future. Thanks.